Welcome to this deep dive, all about stress, made just for you.
Oh, this is going to be interesting.
You gave us a ton of sources, so we'll be diving deep.
Yeah, we've got a lot to cover.
It seems like you really want to understand stress.
And more importantly, how to deal with it, right?
Exactly, and we'll definitely get to the how-to part.
Practical strategies for stress.
Stress Management 101.
Love it.
But first, we need to really understand what stress is and why it feels like such a huge deal these days.
It's everywhere you look.
Right, it's kind of unavoidable, but there's one surprising fact about stress hidden in these sources that I bet you didn't know.
A stress fact. Okay, I'm intrigued.
You ready for this? Stress isn't always bad for you.
Wait, what? Really?
Yeah, seriously, we'll get to that later, though.
Okay, you've got to tell me more about that.
I promise we will.
But first things first.
Right, so back to stress. I was thinking about this the other day, and I think stress is kind of like a spring, you know?
A spring. Okay, I'm listening.
A spring is awesome for a quick burst of energy.
Like a trampoline.
Exactly. But if you keep that spring compressed for too long,
It'll break for sure.
yeah, it loses its power. It might even snap.
Makes sense.
Our bodies react to stress in a really similar way.
Oh, that's a great analogy, actually.
I thought so.
The body reacting to stress is fascinating, really. Imagine our ancestors right back in the day.
Facing down a saber-toothed tiger.
Exactly. Talk about stressful. They needed that sudden burst of energy and focus to survive.
Like a supercharged spring.
And that's exactly what the fight or flight response is all about.
Right, that rush of energy.
Triggered by those powerful hormones
Cortisol.
and adrenaline pumping through your veins.
So that jolt of energy and alertness we feel in a stressful situation.
That feeling of, oh no, what do I do?
That's actually our body trying to help us out.
It's trying to save you.
That's crazy.
It's all thanks to evolution. It's designed for short-term, acute stress.
Like those one-off intense moments.
Exactly. Think about how you feel before you have to give a big presentation.
Ugh, so nerve-wracking.
Or maybe when you have a near-miss accident. Your heart's pounding. You might feel a bit shaky.
And you can't stop thinking about it afterward.
But you're also incredibly focused and ready to react.
Your senses are heightened.
A little bit of stress can actually sharpen our senses and make our reaction time super fast.
So it could be a good thing.
In small doses, absolutely.
Okay, so that makes sense for those one-time stressful events. But let's be real. Most of us aren't dodging saber-toothed tigers on a daily basis. Our stress is more like,
It's like a constant background noise.
yeah, like a low hum that never really goes away.
And that's where things start to get tricky. We call that episodic acute stress. It's way more common in our modern world. Always on, always connected, everything's fast-paced.
It's exhausting.
It really is. Imagine someone who's juggling a demanding job.
Family responsibilities, social commitments.
Bills to pay, errands to run. Maybe they're dealing with some personal challenges too. Their stress response system is stuck in overdrive.
Constantly on high alert.
Exactly. And I think a lot of people listening can relate to that feeling of being constantly overwhelmed. It's almost become the norm.
It's not sustainable, though, is it?
Not in the long run, no. And I'm guessing that's when we start seeing those nasty side effects of stress.
The headaches, the sleep problems, the anxiety.
It can even lead to more serious health issues down the road.
And that's where chronic stress comes in, right?
You got it. Episodic acute stress can definitely lead to a whole cascade of physical and mental symptoms. But it's chronic stress, the kind that just keeps going and going.
Like a never-ending to-do list.
It's the real villain here. It poses the most significant risk to our health and well-being. We're talking about things like constant financial strain,
Unstructured relationships.
or maybe a long-term illness. These situations keep that stress response activated for months, even years.
So your body never really gets a break.
Exactly. And that takes a serious toll on both the body and the mind.
It sounds like we've already identified 3 different types of stress then.
We have. It's important to recognize which one you're dealing with, because it can help you find the best ways to manage it.
So to recap, we've got acute stress.
Which can actually be helpful in small doses.
Right, it gives us that extra boost when we need it. Then there's episodic acute stress, which is that feeling of being constantly on edge.
Like you're always one step away from a meltdown.
And then we have chronic stress, which is like living under a dark cloud that never seems to lift.
It's that constant pressure that just weighs you down.
Okay, I think we've got those different types of stress down. But before we move on to talking about how to manage it all, let's take a step back and talk about what causes stress in the first place.
Let's get to the root of the problem.
Our sources suggest we can divide the causes into 2 main categories: external factors and internal factors.
The outside world versus our inner world.
I think external factors are probably the easiest to understand. These are the things that happen to us in our lives.
The stuff we have to deal with on a daily basis,
A demanding job,
relationship conflicts,
money troubles.
the pressure to succeed to keep up with the Joneses.
Yeah, the list goes on and on.
It's not just about these individual stressors, though. It's also about the big picture, the societal context. Think about it. We're bombarded with messages about what we should be doing, how we should look.
How much money we should be making.
These expectations, they're often unrealistic and unattainable.
And they just add another layer of pressure to our already stressed out lives.
It's like we're all on this treadmill that never stops.
So it's not just about what's happening in our own little bubble. It's also about the larger cultural pressures that we're all swimming in. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, what about those internal factors?
This is where things get a little more introspective.
Are those the stressors we create for ourselves?
Exactly. It's all about our thoughts, beliefs, and perceptions. For example, I used to be a major perfectionist.
Really?
Oh.
Big time.
Well,
I set these ridiculously high standards for myself.
and then what?
I would constantly beat myself up when I inevitably fell short. I've been there. I was the queen of negative self-talk. My inner critic was brutal.
Oh, that inner critic is a powerful force.
It can really do a number on your self-esteem.
And that kind of negative self-talk is a prime example of an internal stressor. It creates this constant state of tension and anxiety.
You're always on edge, second-guessing yourself.
And it's not just negative self-talk, right? We might also have unrealistic expectations.
A fear of failure.
The need to please everyone.
That people-pleasing thing is a real struggle.
It is, and all of these internal factors, they contribute to our overall stress load.
So we've got these external pressures coming at us from the outside world.
Demands of work, relationships, society as a whole.
And then we've got this whole internal landscape of thoughts and beliefs that can add fuel to the fire.
It's like a double whammy of stress.
No wonder we're all so stressed out.
It's a lot to handle.
It really is. But the good news is, understanding both the external and internal sources of stress is crucial for developing effective coping mechanisms.
We can take control, right?
Absolutely. But before we get to all those awesome solutions, let's talk about the real impact stress has on our lives.
Let's get real about the consequences.
We've touched on some of the physical and mental effects, but I think it's worth digging a little deeper.
I agree.
Because stress isn't just some abstract concept. It has a very real impact on our bodies, our minds, even the way we behave.
It affects us on every level.
Right. So stay tuned, because we're about to dive into the nitty-gritty of how stress impacts our lives.
And then we'll explore what we can do about it.
It's going to be good.
I can't wait.
All right, so we've talked about the different flavors of stress: acute, episodic, acute, and chronic.
A little taste test of stress.
Exactly. And we've explored the external things that cause it.
The stuff we can't always control.
Right. And the internal things.
The stuff we can, hopefully.
Yeah, that's the goal. But now, let's talk about how all this affects us, because stress isn't just this idea floating around. It really impacts our bodies and minds.
It even changes how we act.
It's wild how much it impacts us. We've all heard about those classic stress symptoms.
Headaches, tense shoulders, can't sleep.
But it goes so much deeper than that, right?
Way deeper. When we're stressed out all the time, our bodies get flooded with cortisol. Helpful in small amounts, but long-term, it can actually shrink the hippocampus.
But what now?
The hippocampus, it's the part of our brain that makes new memories.
Oh, wow. I did not know that.
So that's why when you're super stressed, you might forget things, feel foggy, or just can't focus.
That makes so much sense. I've totally noticed that. Like, my brain just stops working right when I'm stressed.
It's the cortisol messing with your brain power.
Crazy. And physically, what else does stress do besides headaches?
Oh man, it can wreak havoc on your digestion. Think IBS, ulcers, even just bad heartburn.
The worst.
Stress just makes it all worse. And yes, sleep is usually the first to go when you're stressed. Cortisol messes with your sleep-wake cycle.
Makes it hard to fall asleep, stay asleep.
And you just don't wake up feeling rested.
So no good sleep, our brains are fuzzy, our stomachs are upset.
It's like a recipe for feeling awful.
Seriously, chronic stress sounds terrible.
It really can be. And it doesn't stop there. Long-term stress weakens your immune system.
So you get sick more easily.
Exactly. Colds, flu, you name it. It also makes inflammation worse all over your body.
Inflammation's bad. Nah.
Not good. It's linked to all sorts of chronic diseases.
Like what?
Heart disease, type 2 diabetes, even some cancers.
Okay, wow, this is getting a bit heavy.
Well, that's serious stuff.
Chronic stress is no joke. but I'm sure our listener didn't tune in for a lecture on how bad stress is.
They want to feel better.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Let's switch gears and talk about how to manage this stress monster.
Time for solutions.
Our sources have a ton of strategies, from lifestyle changes to mindset shifts to getting support.
There's something for everyone.
And the good news is, even small changes can make a big difference. It's not about changing your whole life overnight.
Just finding those little things you can stick with.
Okay, I like that approach. So, where do we start? I'm thinking the foundation's a healthy lifestyle.
The basics, but so important.
Good food, exercise, enough sleep.
All that good stuff.
But honestly, when you're already stressed, it's hard to find the time and energy to do all that.
I hear you, it's tough. But listen, exercise isn't just about looking good, it's a powerful stress reliever.
Really?
Yeah, when you move your body, you release endorphins, and those are like mood boosters and pain relievers.
So like our own personal happy drug, I can get behind that. What kind of exercise is best for stress?
Whatever you enjoy and can stick with, walking, dancing, swimming, yoga,
Lots of options.
even 10 minutes a day can make a difference. And seriously, never underestimate a good night's sleep.
I'm all about good sleep,
When you sleep, your body and mind get to repair and recharge.
like hitting the reset button.
Your brain processes everything from the day.
You know, I'm a big believer in sleep, but a lot of people struggle with insomnia, especially when they're stressed. Any tips for actually getting good sleep?
Routine is key. Try to avoid screens for an hour before bed, dim the lights, take a warm bath, listen to calming music,
Create that relaxing vibe.
and make your bedroom a sleep sanctuary.
Ooh, I like that, a sleep sanctuary.
Dark, quiet, and cool.
So important. Okay, we've got exercise and sleep covered. What about food? How does that fit into stress management?
Oh, food is huge. What you eat impacts your mood and energy big time. When you're stressed, it's easy to reach for sugary stuff or junk food,
Comfort food.
but those actually make things worse. They cause those blood sugar spikes and crashes, and that just makes anxiety and mood swings worse.
So keeping blood sugar steady is key.
Absolutely. Focus on fruits, vegetables, whole grains.
The good stuff,
They give you sustained energy and help regulate your mood. Healthy fats are important too.
like avocados, nuts, seeds.
Yep, those are great for brain health and helping you handle stress better.
Okay, so we've got the healthy lifestyle basics down. Exercise, good sleep, and nourishing food. But there's more to it than just the physical stuff, right?
You got it. We need to address the mental and emotional side of stress too.
That inner world we were talking about.
Remember all those internal stressors, the negative self-talk, the perfectionism, always trying to please everyone.
Yeah, those are tough to deal with.
We need to find ways to fight those thought patterns and build a more resilient mindset.
I'm all ears. I know I had to learn some techniques to quiet that inner critic and those negative thoughts.
It's a constant battle, but it's worth it.
So what can we do to manage stress from the inside out?
Mindfulness and meditation are great for calming your mind and reducing anxiety.
I've heard good things about meditation.
Even just a few minutes of focused breathing can make a huge difference. There are tons of apps and websites that can guide you.
So no excuses.
I love that meditation is becoming more mainstream. It's for everyone.
It really is. I found deep breathing to be super helpful too. Is there a specific technique you like?
There are so many, but a simple one is box breathing. Inhale for a count of 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold again for 4.
Easy to remember.
It regulates your heart rate, calms your nervous system, and just brings the sense of focus and clarity.
I'm going to try that later. It sounds really grounding. What about positive self-talk? Is that all just fluffy affirmations or can it really change things?
It's not fluffy at all. It's about consciously choosing to think more supportive and empowering thoughts.
So instead of beating yourself up,
Exactly. Focus on your strengths, your accomplishments. Challenge those negative thoughts and replace them with more realistic and compassionate ones.
it's like being your own cheerleader.
Exactly. And don't forget, you're not alone in this. Social support is a game changer for stress management.
Having people to lean on is so important.
Talking to someone you trust, whether it's a friend, family member, or a therapist, it helps you process your emotions, gain perspective.
And just feel less alone.
Exactly. And let's not forget about the simple things, the things we enjoy doing. Reading, gardening, music, being in nature.
Those are all so good for the soul.
They're not just distractions, they actually lower your cortisol levels, boost your mood.
They give us a break from the everyday stress.
Exactly. So taking time for yourself, doing things you enjoy, it's not selfish. It's essential for managing stress. And Sometimes we need more than just lifestyle changes and positive thinking.
Sometimes you need professional help.
And there's absolutely no shame in that. A therapist can give you personalized guidance, teach you coping skills, and help you work through any mental health concerns that might be making your stress worse.
They can give you that extra support you need.
Exactly.
So we've got this whole toolkit for dealing with stress, which is awesome.
It's empowering, right?
Totally. And speaking of empowering, remember that surprising fact I mentioned at the very beginning?
The one about stress not always being bad?
Yeah, you ready for this?
Yeah.
Stress can actually be a good thing.
Wait, really? Tell me more.
It's true. Our sources talked about something called eustress.
Eustress, huh?
It's like positive stress.
Positive stress. That sounds like an oxymoron.
I know, right? But think about it. It's the kind of stress that motivates you, that pushes you to grow.
The stress that gets you excited, not dreading things.
Exactly. Like the excitement you feel before a big trip, or those butterflies before a first date.
Or when you're about to perform on stage and you get that adrenaline rush.
That's all eustress.
Yep. You need a certain level of stress to function at your best. It keeps you engaged, focused, and wanting to reach your goals.
So it's not about getting rid of stress completely. It's about finding that sweet spot.
The right amount that energizes you without making you freak out.
This is blowing my mind. I'm totally rethinking my whole relationship with stress. Okay, before we wrap up this deep dive, let's recap what we've learned.
The key takeaways.
First, stress is a totally natural human response.
It's built into our system.
And it's not always bad. It's how we perceive stress and how we deal with it that really matters.
Our mindset makes a big difference.
Absolutely. Second, stress affects us in so many ways. Physically, mentally, emotionally, even how we behave.
It touches everything.
So we got to take care of ourselves in every way to be resilient.
Mind, body, and spirit.
And finally, we have way more power to manage stress than we think.
We're not helpless.
We can make changes to our lifestyle, develop good coping mechanisms, and ask for support when we need it.
There's a lot we can do to take control.
This has been an amazing deep dive. We've covered so much, but there's always more to learn, right?
Yeah.
So we want to leave you with a question to think about.
A little something to ponder.
Our sources talked a lot about how societal pressures can add to our stress levels.
Those expectations from the outside world.
So here's the question. How can we, as individuals and as a whole society, create a culture that values well-being and eases up on that constant pressure to always be striving for more?
That's a big question, but it's an important one.
It really is. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into stress. We hope you feel empowered and equipped to handle whatever life throws your way.
Remember, you're not alone in this. Take care of yourself, be kind to yourself, and know that you have the strength to handle anything.
You've got this. And don't forget to try out some of those stress-busting techniques we talked about. They can really make a difference. Until next time, be well.